seeing a few like weird elements standing out, so I'm just cleaning that up and finding the layer and erasing it. Now just getting to the eye a bit more, getting a smaller brush, start sketching in some more refined details, I guess. It's like the cast shadow from ZBrush is very vague, and I've changed the color and painted into it, so I'm just going back in and refining and defining things a bit more, adding some highlights on the eye, just painting it in by scratch.
Another thing I do with this, it's probably a good place to do it, is on the sketch, it's just too much information, so I'll go to noise, median, and we'll cut a lot of that back. You can see it just simplifies a lot of it, but I think it's not working very good for this type of character, so I think I'm going to tone it back a bit just so a lot of that feels more shiny.
The right side is bugging me a little bit. That's just our original light layer that we rendered out, but it's just kind of, it's almost too much, and it's kind of, we're losing a lot of the, or just, I guess it's just not helping sell our form at all, so I'm just gonna play around and maybe take it out completely. The rim light on the left is enough to sell it, and there's enough of kind of a like reflected light naturally to make the form read. So just playing around with some of the other layers, seeing what else we have in there to help sell the form. Toning down some of the lighting again. It's one of the things to keep in mind, like you'll get so much stuff out of ZBrush, and it's just learning to pick and choose the things that you need, just kind of kicking back the sides so it's a little vignette to sell our character a bit more. Just real simple illustration stuff.
Kind of the boring part, but hopefully you can see how easily you can just take it in there and complete do a quick paint over of your sculpt. I think these might be a bit too intense, so I might take those out. Just keep it simple like some of these fish.
So just continuing to take things out and add things in, just all like traditional illustration techniques. We've got most of what we wanted out of the ZBrush information, and now it's just refining and cleaning things up. And so like that rim light is like too harsh, so I'm just softening things or painting into it and kind of changing the overall form. Again, a lot of the stuff is just too much information. It's just us toning it back, adding in extra wrinkles or more definition around the mouth so it feels more fleshy, adding in cast shadows and just refining the forms overall. Just refining the overall shapes and getting some more color on the light side. It just seems a bit dead from our base ZBrush layers. So just getting a bit more color in there. You can see there's this weird purple coming through on that lighten layer, and just kicking it back so the skin feels consistent. Going in with the airbrush and kicking back a lot of the dark shadows that aren't really helping sell our character. Defining those eyes a bit more. Still haven't decided what color I want the eyes to be. I don't want it to be pure black, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Just go and refine just the kind of real dark overlapping parts a bit more. Just pushing those in and popping out areas around the mouth. Maybe areas that are a bit more wet or will be catching the light a bit more. Getting some more extreme highlights in there. Refine the mouth form a little bit more. Same thing with our sculpt, just traveling around and hitting everything at once. So overall it's getting more and more finished.
Just kind of cleaning things up and refining the edge a bit. Yeah, again, it's kind of just having fun and exploring, but maybe not the most interesting thing to look at. I don't really like how the rim lighting on the left or right side turned out, so I might go back and do something else, but we'll see how it goes. Again, this is a gamble rendering something like this I've never rendered before, but you can watch me struggle through it a bit. Sometimes something I do, so this guy, like how I would lay down a wash in an oil painting. So you just want some really abstract color, pattern, texture information. Let's see how that works. Whoa, crazy. All right, let's see. Now he's blue. All right, there we go. And tone that back a bit. I kind of like that better. Okay, let's see. again, a lot of this is just experimentation, and I do have kind of a set process that I will do for things I'm familiar with, but I kind of wanted to experiment today. So we'll see how it goes. So a lot of that, like you'll put a layer on and be like, oh wow, I wasn't planning on that happening, but I think leaving things open for happy accidents is always a good thing, instead of, again, like I was talking about, when I open up a sphere and I don't have any animal or any reference on what I'm doing, I always end up with the same thing. So like if I go in and render the exact same way every time, it kind of looks the same every time.
So right now I'm just trying to get a bit more color variation back in there. The blue around the neck I feel is working better than this sort of cyan color that our overall character has. So I'm just bringing a bit more of that blue from the parrotfish in there, because I feel like just more interesting. So just painting it in underneath our lighten layers and texture layers with a airbrush, color picking from our fish, toning back some of the extreme highlights on the left because it's just a bit distracting right now. Might be softening our textures too much, but we can always push it down, lower the opacity a bit. I think I'm finally gonna solve this. Beak's been bugging me a bit. I'm gonna just commit and make it black, just like a black beak, more like a squid. So paint it black and put it underneath all of our lighten layers, so hopefully brings it out a bit more. Too far. It's starting to work. I'm just trying to find some sort of light to define the sort of beak texture we sculpted in there. That's kind of working, but not 100%. But it'll give us a decent start. I feel like we're losing a lot of definition on the right side. I think I might, I know we deleted that light a bit earlier, but I think we might go back in and try to render out real thin reflected light on the right side to just pop it a little bit. It doesn't need much, but just go back into ZBrush real quick and then mess around with the lighting on the basic material. So just getting a real thin rim light on that right side I think will be really nice. So just same thing we did at the beginning, just dragging in that layer, copy paste it into our image, but since we cropped it, it's off, it's not lined up properly, so just turn the opacity down and line it up real quick. And then same thing, just mask it off and delete the background. Line it up manually with the arrow keys. Looks okay. Put on light in. Just contrast a bit because we're getting a lot of too much light on the bottom. I'm playing around with maybe making the reflected light a warm color, but I don't think it's going to look very good.
Trying to get some more color variation there since it's so blue. I usually have like a cool kicker light, but since it's all blue, let's make it maybe warm without getting too nasty.
So finally, just getting back to that beak and refining that a bit more. Going back to one of our earlier layers that has a bit more definition on that. Just adjusting a few things first. Just really want that to read as something shiny and reflective, and copying a bit of that from this kind of reflective layer that we rendered out initially, which has a lot more information, but we just gotta mess around with the contrast and layer properties to get it looking like it's some black shiny material. So it's starting to work a bit more, just experiment. Just playing around with the layer properties and seeing what works. I really like a lot of other properties of that material. I feel like the overall face is getting a little flat, so we're going to go back in and sample some more from that to make the skin feel a bit shinier.
So right now I'm just trying to get, there's a lot of stuff in this satin one that'll look nice, like really slick areas around the eyes and stuff that's getting lost that I kind of started painting over things a bit more. Yeah, like a lot of this stuff I really want to show up. So
just cutting out certain areas that needed a lot more definition, and everything's just getting really flat, and this that sort of satin layer really brings out a lot of the sort of wet, shiny material that I'm trying to go for on his skin. So a lot of the areas around the mouth and eye, and we'll go back in and all the information on that neck and shoulder area is really nice on that material as well. So we'll bring that back in and try and make that show up a bit better. So it's starting to work a lot better.
Yeah, personally, I have friends that just do it all in ZBrush. I've done a little bit, but I guess I'm a bit on the spot now. But like usually I have all my brushes set up really efficiently, and I know exactly which stroke I'm trying to make with each brush stroke, or what exact texture I want to make with each brush stroke, and I know this stroke will look like this, and it creates this effect. And whereas in ZBrush, I'm sure I could do the same thing, but I just haven't put in the time to figure out how to make those similar effects. But it's just faster for me. Yeah, exactly. So like something like that, same thing, but I just kind of went more of a realistic approach with this. I'm kind of pushing myself to do a bit more of a stylized color scheme and things. So, but yeah.
So that top of the head's feeling a bit flat as well. So again, just going back to that sort of satin texture or satin material that we rendered out and bringing that in. It's not lit, but the reflections imply and define the form really well. So I really like that. I'm just trying to get a bit more of that head form. And it's already looking a lot better now. Same thing with the lower neck area. That's a lot more defined and looks much better than what we had. It's adjusting the color so it matches up pretty well with our blue. And it's looking pretty close. Just softening the edges a bit. So I still kind of want to capture some of these things I'm seeing in the photos of just like a mouth, real light accent around a dark mouth or eye. So I'm going to play around with that for a little bit and see if I can make it work. I'm just going to copy everything up with Control, Alt, Shift, E, and just select out around the eyes and the mouth and just adjust and lighten it a bit and see if I can make that work. Quickly adjust that with the levels. And just soften it up a bit with our airbrush. Kind of starting to work. Get all that light so our dark beak pops back out again. Again, starting to feel a little flat, so I'm just painting in some more definition under the chin. So just continuing on, just cleaning things up and making things read and defining the forms a bit more. Like if you look under the eye, just sort of like what we're doing with that satin layer, is just getting a little flat. Working in an overlay layer is a good way to keep a lot of your textures and overall form information, but you just kind of enhance it by making higher contrast or bringing out kind of keeps all the highlight information you see right there. I'm painting light and dark, but it keeps those lights intact, which is pretty handy. Whereas if I was using a light in or color dodge or something, it might blow everything out or make it too dark. So just using the overlay and getting a bit more color variation in there. Lights, just defining things a bit more. The lights are probably a bit too harsh, so I'm just cutting back into it a bit. I'm thinking maybe the ridges on his head might also have a bit of a lighten around it, so we'll maybe see if that works. Same thing, just cut it out, adjust it, the levels, clean up the edges.